Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Hey, just in time, perfectly. Eck joins us, and
Hello.
We're doing the pre-show already live, Eck. So we're
Excellent.
We're going
to coming to you again from the rumor mill.
Yeah.
Which is the mill back there. We're churning out the buyouts today.
Yeah, there's this.
So you let the horses out already for the day?
Yeah, I did.
It's a nice day. Yeah. Okay.
Horses are gone.
No, not gone. You let them out for the day, and then you bring them back later, right before sundown.
I let them go. I freed them to the world, but I felt like it was time that they ride free.
Well, I'm going to have the Rolling Stones "Wild Wild Horses" song going through my head right now.
Well, yeah, there was one that I called Wildfire that I really
this isn't Chincoteague where they run wild. Just so you know.
If you have 25 cents, you can buy a quarter horse.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Wow, we really have dwindled in.
All right, let's get going.
All right, moving on.
So
moving on. Kevin will be joining us at some point.
Okay. So in Philadelphia, in the area, there is now Boogate. And this all started in the Eagles game last week when I thought I heard boos when Carson Wentz didn't look so good, which was most of the game. But at one point in the game, he didn't look good. And then he was getting off the field. There were boos. And there was discussion about this in my house because at first it was like, no, I don't know. And I'm like, no, it was. And so, yes, it was. So then now it's become like a big investigation. Well, where did the boos come from? Well, okay, so the first one is it didn't come from the NFL. Even though the NFL has deemed what they want as sounds, they don't control the sound. It didn't come from the Eagles because you would wonder why would the Eagles, have their sound guy boo their own player in their stadium. So that didn't happen either. So then it comes down to Fox, and it seems like this guy Caputo, who's in charge of all the sounds at Fox, was even surprised. So now it seems like there was somebody who went rogue and hit the boo button during the game. And, of course, now it's probably somebody who's an Eagles fan or an Eagles hater, either way. And now this has become a big thing where, radio stations are talking about it. The thing that makes me laugh the most is the inferiority complex Philadelphia has about their teams because, again, they were like, well, we don't think the people at home should hear boos when the players can't hear them. I mean, that just makes the city look bad. But they all acknowledged that there would have been boos had there been a live crowd there. So now this is how you know we're in 2020 because Philadelphia is now complaining about the fake boos for their football team.
Well, I have an idea who it is. It's Gritty. Gritty is the one who did the sound.
Probably. I mean, I want to throw this out there, and I think that this. I pray the NHL is watching, or they've already thought about this, which I'm sure they have. We need to have boos when Gary Bettman presents the Stanley Cup to the team, and if the NHL did that, I think what the good vibes they would get from that,
it would be great,
and from Bettman himself, who just could take the joke.
It's what everybody's grown accustomed to.
It would be phenomenal. It would be phenomenal.
Now, I have to provide an update on a pet peeve of mine during the
I'm worried about this, Mike. Go on.
It was in late June or July when I received a charge of $20 for the MLB at bat audio package. Which I subscribe to every year for the full 162 game season to listen to Yankee broadcast because it's tough to get the Yankee broadcast on the radio during the afternoon for afternoon games. Okay, so obviously the MLB season was 60 games. They didn't refund a penny of the $19.99 that they charged. No, it's $19.99. It's not gonna break me. But it was just the principle. They give you 1/3 basically of the season. You would think that they would charge you 1/3 of what they charge for a regulation season, but no, they didn't. Okay, I just move on. Well, a couple days ago, I go to listen to the Yankees game who are playing in Buffalo against the Blue Jays, and I get a little flag on my account saying, you either have to purchase $2.99 per month for the playoffs,
Nice.
Or and I'm like, okay, wait a second. This is not even the end of the regular season. There are 5 or 6 games to go, and they cut me off at 54 games, and now they expect me to pay $3 a month. I will never pay for the radio broadcast for MLB. You can stick it. It is absolutely ridiculous.
You heard it here.
It's unbelievable.
No, it is. I mean, and I'm sure there's other ways of getting this, right? Like,
yeah, you could go to radio.com and get some of the local broadcasts.
They black out any station that carries the radio.
No, not anymore. I think WFAN is broadcasting the Yankee games on radio.com now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think anymore.
In New York, I was said a little while ago that's the case. So
there's a service that we just provided to everybody.
Okay, then I'll check that out because honestly,
I get mad. I get the same kind of anger. Like I hate blackouts. The blackout thing in sports pisses me off no end. Like I had it happen to me this year. We're trying to watch the Phillies, and it said you can't watch the Phillies because they're a home game. And I'm like, well, I can't go to the Phillies game. So how is that? And I'm not.
That's true. For this season, they should have done away with it.
How could I possibly what do you think? I mean, I know the concept is I could buy a ticket, but I can't go to the game. So why would you black this out in my area? Exactly.
You will not get 1 red cent from me ever again, MLB. Stick it.
Let's start. Should we?
Until next season.
I think we should start. I got some other things to talk about. Besides
Kevin is just mute.
Kevin has not said a word yet.
Well, Mike, you don't have to listen to John Sterling and Susan Wallman anymore. So is that a gain or a detriment?
No, I actually like listening to them to hear all the mistakes that they made. Like he said, Salem Field in Toronto instead of.
All right, let's move on.
I have a couple rumors for you guys. Let's get going. Here we go. Ready?
Sorry.
All right. Hello, Hockey World. I'm checking the date. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, September 25th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm pissed off.
I'm Sam Levine, and was probably the last weekend of the NHL playoffs.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology, but the draft's coming.
I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm happy.
And I'm Ekman, coming to you, like I said before, from the rumor mill. The mill behind me is we're churning them out. And I'm going to keep doing that until someone enjoys the joke.
You'll be waiting.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Watch the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday in the afternoons to fill you on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we already have, so that today is buyout day, kids. Woohoo, buyouts. That time that none of us have ever had the joy of experiencing, where someone gives you a ton of money to go sign someplace else to play. I mean, who wouldn't want to experience this as a human being? I mean, that's never happened to me. Like, I'm going to give you half of your contract now for the rest of your time. You can go sign with someone else to play for more money. Go for it. Anyone to buy me out? Anyone buy me out? All right. Yes, but today's buyout day. And already we have rumors flying in. Of course, we talked about Lundqvist. That's a good possibility, it sounds like. But then the first big buyout that seems to be rumored around is Bobby Ryan today, who's been placed on waivers to be with the intention of buying him out.
You have to say Cherry Hills Bobby Ryan, or it's not.
I know. Cherry Hill's own Bobby Ryan, the only other person who's famous besides me in the hockey world from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Yeah. All right. So,
So Kevin,
later on, Bobby Ryan and I will be sharing a pizza at Ponzio's or Pizza Town and talking about
Pizza King. Anyway. Pizza King is where he goes.
He lives at Pizza King guy. I'm the Johnny's Pizza guy. We had this fight before. All right, so Vito's Pizza, actually, if you're from that area, is the best. All right, so here we go.
Talk to Kevin, please.
Kevin, Bobby Ryan's being bought out. Now, my thing about Bobby Ryan is his contract has really been like an albatross around his neck for a while. For a long time. I mean, he's getting a lot of money, so we shouldn't call it. It's not the worst albatross. It's a pretty nice albatross, but still, could he be? I mean, he's got some value out there, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, he'll find a home. Somebody will take a chance on him, but, not for very much money, obviously.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this, in the real world, usually when you get, kind of a buyout, it's a negative thing. But in the real hockey world, it's not the end of the world for the player unless, because generally they recoup what they lost. Sometimes they do even better. Rarely do they lose. They end up, the reasons for them buying out are not always necessarily about performance, although most of the time it's certainly intertwined in it. But You know, it has to do with the salary cap and everything else. But in Bobby's case, you know, they weren't really getting, you know, their money's worth out of it. So, but you know, you look at the teams, like let's just say Arizona continues down the path of cutting $15 million, and they go to Bobby Ryan and said, you know, we need goals. You know, can we sign you for $800,000? You know, he can end up there or with a team that's, you know, just looking to add a few goals with the hope that he can sort of recapture the magic that he's had in the past.
I mean, he does tend to be like a half a point a game player in his career. You know, like he's gonna, and you know, and maybe more than that at times. Even last year, I mean, last year was obviously a rough year for him. We all know the issues that went on there.
I mean, the speed's still there, and of course, the obvious first team that will get mentioned will be the Flyers, and they could afford him at that rate. And the question now is, Bobby Ryan, we're going to find out if he's a man of his word, because he told me he hates humidity, and we will find out now if he's going to play for an East Coast team that has humidity. That's what we're going to me, that's the biggest burning question I have for him.
The consistent.
Well, we all know humidity comes from Washington, D.C. and radiates out from there. And I don't mean that because of the politics, but honestly, Washington, D.C., and Kevin, you've lived there before, is one of the most humid on the planet. And, you know, so we have some humidity here in Pennsylvania, of course, because if we get, you know, but and I think
the most humid place on the planet, though, is New York City in the summer.
Yes.
Like with the buildings there, you're walking around there like it is just always humid.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it is, but
the subway stations.
They keep coming up through the ground. But I think that I think Bobby in the past has, you know, I've talked to him a lot about this in the past, and there's been moments when he definitely has wanted to play here. There's no question about it. Like he has been excited about the possibility. Whenever his name came up in rumors, I would hear from him about it. You know, do you think Philadelphia's got it? Like I think he would like to come here. So whether or not, I mean, you know, he's you know, this team sees him as a good option. I think they should give it a shot. I really do. I think they're looking for more scoring. He's going to be cheap. I think that, you know, he's got a love of the area, and this is you know, a dream place for him to play. It could turn out to be something positive.
Well, the ironic thing here is that most teams that are going to be exercising buyouts are going to be doing it to open up cap space. Ottawa, on the other hand, they have $40 million in cap space. So that was not the motivation. The motivation here was to save the $3.6 million that they don't have to pay Ryan over the next 2 years. They spread out the cap hit over 4 years. And Eugene Melnyk, who obviously we know has financial issues. I mean, he's got so many restricted free agents and so many players who are up for arbitration that $3.6 million can be applied to somebody like Connor Brown on a new deal. So that's the reason why they did it. But they're going to have an issue though, because I mean, I believe they're like 15 million now under the cap floor. So I don't know if that means Pierre Dorian's going to go out and sign free agents, or they're going to go out and trade for Marian Hossa to have the cap hit to get back to the cap floor, because I don't think they really want to add a lot of money.
Hossa back to Ottawa, that would be kind of a fun ending. Isn't that where he started, right? I mean, yes, at the beginning. That's pretty cool. I like that. I think other players out there right now that are being rumored. Corey Schneider is going to be bought out. They did try to trade him, I was told yesterday. They've been trying to move him around, but of course
he would be hard to move at this point.
It's hard.
There's too many goalies available.
There are too many goalies, and we're going to get into that later because we're going to have a fun little thing about that. But also the other name, and Lundqvist, we talked about that. Another name I just heard though recently was Wenberg in Columbus.
Yeah.
And this seems like a good possibility as well. And there's another player that I think will find a place to play, like if he's bought out. Like I think,
yes, but there's a special circumstance with Wenberg because he's 25 years old, and with a buyout, the buyout is only 1/3 of the buyout. So it would be beneficial. I believe the cap hit on him. This was similar to Cody Hodge.
800,000, I think it is. Yeah, pretty low cap hit.
Less than $1 million a year for like 6 years, but that's really inconsequential if they can get out. I mean, he's had 3 bad years in a row, so it's. But no, I mean, Carl Alsner in Montreal, John Moore in Boston, Carter Hutton in Buffalo, maybe Darren Helm. I don't know, Kevin. I mean, there are 3 or 4 guys that if I was Yzerman and I had the complete say so to do it, that I would buy out an Abdelkader or I would buy out a Helm. But the thing is that they would then have to find somebody to play in those positions. So why would they buy him out? Why don't you just let them play out their contracts? What do you think that Detroit does?
Yeah, I don't think they will buy out the players. I could be wrong on that, but it's hard to tell because Yzerman plays everything so close to the vest. But Helm, I don't think they would consider that. Actually played pretty well last season, and you can't have a team, as we all know, full of players who are 23 and under and have very little experience. So having a guy like Helm around who isn't as fast as he once was, but is still pretty quick, can still play the up-tempo style that they want to play. I wouldn't see that. Abdicators probably and Nielsen are the two that I think the fan base would love to see. But I don't know. Yzerman hasn't really shown that he's going to do that. But you can't be shocked with anything Steve does.
And there's no benefit in buying out Nielsen in Detroit or Louis Eriksson in Vancouver or Lucic because all the contract is signing bonus. It kills you.
Yeah, for sure. And Nielsen. Like they can't figure out what happened to Nielsen. Nielsen, when he was with the Islanders, was a really effective player.
Yeah.
And he came to Detroit and just has never been that player. Like you can see at times that they had the instincts that made him, a terrific penalty killer and all that. Like he was when they signed him, they were really excited about it, and he just hasn't been that. And I think always in the back of everyone's mind, they're going to say all of a sudden he's going to revert to that player, but I think it's too late. For that, I think he's moved, beyond that. So, but Abdicator, that's another mystery too. When he was young, everybody thought he was going to be just a terrific player, and he's not only not playing at his best level, but he's actually regressed.
Yeah, the other name out there that I've seen from a few people that it'd be a little surprising is Oli Mata with Chicago. If he's, he 3 years ago, I thought he was at least a pretty decent defenseman.
Yeah.
And then he went to Chicago, and I don't know if he's fallen out of favor. To me, they've got, if you're talking about bad defensive contracts, Connor Murphy is much worse than Oli Mata. But that his name has been out there, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But it would be interesting if he gets bought out and then is on the open market, because I think there are a couple teams out there
teams will get him, but he's not going to get more than a 2-year deal, and it won't be for a lot of money.
No, but that's the one thing about it.
Defenseman, he's not bad. He's just not a $4 million a year defenseman. And look, Pittsburgh took a chance on him with signing him because he had suffered all those injuries.
Right.
Unfortunately, and then he had that playoff run where it looked like he finally started to turn the corner back to where we saw earlier in his career, and then now he's seemed to happen ever since, especially since he's gone to Chicago.
But you referenced it off the top here when we're talking about like these players getting bought out, getting 2/3 of their money, and then going someplace else. You have two examples on the Dallas Stars right now, and one on Tampa, or actually two on Tampa, Bogosian and Shattenkirk. But Sekera and Perry, who both got bought out. Yeah, Sekera from Edmonton, Perry from Anaheim. They both took $1.5 million 1-year deals with bonuses on it, and they're in the Stanley Cup final. So Bobby Ryan and anybody else who gets bought out, they're probably going to be willing to take significantly less to find a job next year, and maybe a situation that'll be better for them.
I'm going through my stuff and trying to make sense of all this, right? And I have like 68 players on the rumor chart right now. When I have to put the buyout guys in there, I could be easily up to 100, I think. And the way this all plays out is like, how the hell are 100 players going to find places to play between now and,
it depends on their salaries. Like if the Flyers buy out JVR, someone's going to sign JVR. That's obvious.
Yeah,
the interesting part is also this. You remember, we have now gotten rid of our quote unquote tacit negotiating period. So in the past, you'd have 4 or 5 days where guys could talk with teams and gauge interest.
That's a question I have, Jan, for this, and this is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin. I want to know if you know the answer because I could not find it. I was trying to find it desperately before this because I didn't want to sound stupid. But I'm going to sound stupid now. I'm going to ask you. When a person is bought out, do they still have to wait till October 9th to sign? They're not technically on a team.
I think they do.
Yeah, I do too, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that anyone's ever brought it up to me before.
Think about it, right? Like, the only reason they can't sign usually before the signing period is because you're still property of that team.
I guess it would depend on this new amended CBA. Like, you'd have to pour through that and see.
But
they're not a prototypical unrestricted free agent because those contracts end at the end of the calendar.
I mean, someone in the chat room says they can sign immediately. I just haven't. I would think that's actually true, but I can't figure.
I don't know if that's with the current CBA though. That's the whole thing.
Well, maybe,
and this year's is different too. I mean, everything's different.
Maybe the Bogosian situation, even though it was before the deadline, is an indicator that he got the contract terminated and he signed immediately before the deadline with Tampa. So he was a free, his contract was terminated. He was on unconditional waivers. Everything was gone, and then he signed immediately. So I would think Ryan could sign tomorrow.
That makes, now that you say that makes sense too.
All right, so if they can sign tomorrow, okay, the goalie's being bought out now. Got to have a nice advantage. Like there's an advantage to some of these guys. Like, so over if we're looking at the goalie market, right? Like, you agree, Governor?
I don't know though. If you're looking at goalies and everybody, there's so many goalies available and they're all going to be A, B, C plans. Like, are you going to sign Lundqvist right away? Or are you going to wait and see, what's going on with the other guys? Like, I think teams will still wait.
They might wait.
With Lundqvist, they're going to
the advantage of Lundqvist being able to find out what the hell's going on out there and talk to people freely is different. Like, that's like he can go around and say, I mean, I think that's a huge advantage with all the goalies that are out there right now. If I have the option to be able to actually talk to people before October 9th.
Let me ask you this though: in the real world, not the world where it's governed by the rules of the CBA, but in the real world, where people kind of always know kind of what's happening, don't you think Lundqvist already knows what his value is out there and how many teams?
I think that's true. Okay.
I just think they talk and so
there's enough Swedes on other teams that he gets all the information he wants.
Thanks to Randy and Funky in the chat room and everything for bringing up that.
I mean, that's the reason also I said is this removal of this negotiating period is just a fallacy, right? We know conversations are going on.
Yeah.
You just made it legal before in the past, which just made it look more palatable when everybody signed on July 1st, shortly after 12 o'clock. Why bother getting rid of that period? Now you just basically make sure everybody goes below the table as opposed to above the table.
And specifically for Lundqvist, his agent is Don Meehan. There's nobody more tied in the entire league than Don Meehan. If you don't think he's already floated it out there to general managers, like by the way, well, if a guy who's 38 years old is a free agent, what would you conceivably pay him on a 1-year deal? Of course he has.
Yeah.
Of course.
But in essence, doesn't the UFA signing period start tomorrow? Because in my opinion, it kind of does. Like
for those buyout players,
buyout players, it does. And if we have enough players bought out today, like we could have at least.
Well, today it's over.
Today's day one. It's a 2-week period, so we may not get a bunch.
It's a 2-week period, right? So, and obviously you're looking at like Dallas and Tampa. They can't buy anybody out right now, where they wouldn't because they're still playing.
Right.
But they have guys they probably both will buy out. So I've just told. So there's different situations here. You won the Stanley Cup. You've been bought out.
Actually, for Dallas, I think the one that they would probably buy out is Cogliano. He's got a year left at a little over $3 million, and he did not have a good year. He might retire. I don't know how much
playoff. Don't you think? I thought
he's been okay. He was taken out of the lineup in the Colorado series for Kevin Ranta, and he only came back in when Foxa got hurt. So he was a 13 forward for that.
He was taken out because he was hurt, though. I mean, he could be, from what I was told.
He was healthy the next game, and they kept Kivi Ranta.
They kept him out because Kivi Ranta had that unbelievable game. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting twist as to how things play out over the next couple of days. A lot of people in the chat room, Kevin, want to know your opinion on this Pittsburgh, Florida deal.
Sure. Well, I thought it was a good trade for Florida right off the bat. Like if you said who won it, I'd go with them because Hornquist can still play,
right?
And he's a great character guy, and I think everyone believes that we need to change the culture in Florida.
Yeah,
I think he'll help with that. He's always a very popular guy in the room, and they needed to get rid of Matheson because he wasn't Quenneville's guy. And when you are not Quenneville's guy, you don't play. And you sit. And even if the new general manager, Bill Zito, loved Matheson, he would still sit.
Yeah,
that's the way that Quenneville works. He's earned that kind of autonomy. He probably has more than most coaches get. And so, they needed to move him. He had a contract that was a little difficult to swallow, and Pittsburgh took it. But from Pittsburgh's perspective, here's what I would say about that. I think they, sort of see this like they saw with Schultz when they got him. Schultz, people had sort of given up on him. He's not the player we thought. He got to Pittsburgh. He played with great players, and suddenly he was a valuable player. Now, at the end, he was less valuable. But for a while, the Penguins were very happy with what they got out of Schultz. And I think they see Matheson as that kind of guy. He can skate. He can play in an offensive thing. Like all of his goals, except one, I think, were at even strength last year.
He doesn't score power play goals.
Well, he didn't get all that much power play time.
In his career he did. He just didn't last year.
No, he didn't last year. So, I think he's, I think he might fit. Now, the length of the contract, that's going to irritate the fan base, just like Jack Johnson's did. But that's how I see it. Like I see it from both perspectives, but I'd like it a little bit more from Florida's perspective, just because I like Hornquist so much, and I think they got rid of a problem.
I like it. I like it for Florida more too, because I don't think Matheson's even close offensively to Schultz. I just never have. Now, we'll see what happens when he plays with these better players, but he's still going to be bad on defense. And at least Schultz did get better in his own end. Matheson's not good in his own end. So I think all they did was they got Olimata too. And I think he's gonna be exactly what Olimata was, which is after a while why they got tired of him. But oh well.
I think it's a home run for Zito because Matheson's contract was backloaded. The last 3 years has signing bonus. So down the line, if he doesn't play any better than he did with Florida, it's almost buyout proof, where it's going to make it painful to buy out. And as you said, Kev, I think Hornquist is a good veteran player that sort of promotes the esprit de corps of a team. But if he falls off, he's 34 right now. If he falls off, his contract is all salary. Buyout wise, if he lasts a year or if he lasts 2 years, it won't kill Florida if they have to buy him out of the final year or if he retires. Whereas Matheson, he was not working out with Quenneville. He probably wasn't going to play. That was a boat anchor of a contract for them. So, I mean, I think Zito did a great job.
One of the more interesting quotes came out yesterday from Darren Dreger. And I'm not going to say that this was like something that he was like, someone said, would you mind saying this? But it feels like someone said, would you mind saying this? It's like there's so much news out there and you don't know what's, sometimes you want to get it out there that the player's available or this is not happening, that kind of thing.
Right.
And no one was picking up on this. And Dreger was asked about Patrick Laine and the Winnipeg Jets. And he basically said that they are very serious about trading Patrick Laine and that they're listening to teams.
Drager was responding to Frank Cervelli's trade bait list on TSN, where Laine was on like the second or third guy on the list, and basically echoed that availability and said that yes, there is a lot of chatter about Laine. So I don't know if he brought it up independently.
To me, that's interesting. It might be defending the chart or whatever they have, but to me, knowing Kevin Sheldon is one of the guys that I feel like I know pretty well, even though I knew him better before he was a general manager, I think, which is every reporter would say. So, but he is also not the kind of guy who is really, this is not in Cheveldaev's playbook to be moving Patrick Laine. Do you think so?
No, but I mean, if ownership is telling him he has to, then he has to. Like if it's a situation where they know they don't want to pay the money because their revenue is not coming in, then they're going to have to do it.
Let me read you the quote from Dreger, and then I want Kevin to respond. So they say, not that I don't like your response, Russ. It was really
that's okay.
Right, that's not an obnoxious way to say it. But no, I'm going to read the quote, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, so the Winnipeg Jets know what their needs are. They need a number 2 center, and they need to bolster their top 4 on the blue line. And Kevin Cheveldaev, the general manager, they can't solely rely on free agency. What's curious about this, though, is that there hasn't been a lot of action around Patrick Laine. I mean, the National Hockey League can recognize that he's a star winger, so many clubs don't believe he's available, or they're concerned about the economics moving forward, as well as the extension or what arbitration case Patrick Laine might look like after next season. But the little line in there that they don't realize he's available is what kind of caught me a little bit. But Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think what's holding us back is his wants moving forward for a contract. I think people are well aware that he's available, but I've spoken to 2 general managers who had interest in him but now because of what they think he's going to want, they just don't think it will fit, especially now in a flat cap situation for them. So I think that's what's holding him back. I mean, who wouldn't want Line on your wing if you're looking for a scoring winger? He's got, everybody knows his strengths and weaknesses, but if he's going to want $9.5 million or whatever it is that he wants, I don't know what he wants, but it's just hard to fit that in.
I have a scenario.
Teams I heard before, and I mentioned it before, we talked about it here too, and that we're interested in, that I could see in the past. Now I haven't heard much about interest recently, but where I heard the Islanders were interested in him in the past, and now that they maybe that would have to do with what happens with Matthew Barzal, I'm sure, and how they get him tied in. Now LeBron says that the Columbus Blue Jackets could be. I don't know if that's just the Jarmo Kekalainen thing or not with the Finnish winger, but I don't think that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me necessarily.
It makes a lot of sense.
The way Columbus does things, though, necessarily.
No, it makes a lot of sense in the sense that Columbus has got a lot of cap room and they need scoring.
Sure.
But in terms of what Winnipeg would be looking for in a trade coming back, they're not trading Werenski, they're not trading Seth Jones, and they don't have a center worthy of being involved in that deal past Pierre-Luc Dubois. So the fit's not there.
Well, here's a team. Okay, so what if the Arizona Coyotes, because they're looking to get rid of money, trade OEL and a center of theirs, some center,
Stepan
for Line, and again, Winnipeg could buy out Little, so they could easily fit in OEL.
And don't have he's on LTIR.
Okay, so they can't do that, but they'll do something else. They can fit him in where they're not overspending too much. Now, It will be up to Arizona whether they re-sign Line or don't, but they saved the money this year. And if they lose Taylor Hall, at least they keep goal scoring. Like it sort of could work.
Well, the issue with Winnipeg here is they're paying Wheeler 8.25. They're paying Kyle Connor 7.1. They're paying Ehlers 6. Those are three wingers who are your three of your top four forwards.
Sure.
And three of your top four salaries. So I mean, Line A, if he's asking for $9 million, like Kevin was referencing, they can't afford that because they have 5 or 6 other holes that they have to fill. So I mean, you don't want to give him up, but I think if you get a couple retainable young players as a defenseman and as a forward, it makes sense for Cheveldayoff to do that.
They got to get a center though. That's the biggest
center. Yeah,
what Russ is saying there's a lot of logic to it, but it doesn't help them at center. And
Stepan's the center; he'd be in that deal.
But
the answer. He's too slow for that system, in my opinion.
That's you got to get a center. Like one of the objectives to trading Line is to fill another hole that you have.
Right. That's got to be it.
One of the reported teams that was interested was Carolina, and I was just spitballing with the guys here on our group text about like what it would take from Carolina, and a young center who was retainable would be a Martin Neckish. But Carolina doesn't want to give up Martin Neckish. He could be their number 2 center for the next decade.
Yeah.
So
not only that, they don't want to pay a guy $9 million.
And that too.
What about Colorado? I mean, Colorado could give up Kadri and they could give up Connor Timmins.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's not totally.
But
who becomes your second line center there, though?
I will move up Comfer. I don't care. Comfer can play second line center.
But everybody's right.
Listen, Derek Stepan played first line center, Jan, and he wasn't a first line center.
Why would Colorado do that when they can just go out and sign Taylor Hall? And not give
could, but maybe, but again, this way they could. Line A is a little more controllable than Taylor Hall, or they're just renting them.
No. I mean, I think that. I mean, obviously, Line A and Hall are very different players, but they are both wingers, so it does make sense. Like so you're saying, I mean, I think that. Cheveldayoff has been very conservative in everything he's ever done. I think. Do you agree with that? I think he's been.
Yeah, he had, but this time it seems like his hand is forced. So I think again, Mike and I were talking about this off air because they're not able to attract free agents there. Cheveldayoff has had to trade picks to get players because that's been the only way to get players there. And when players have a chance to get out, they get out. Most of them don't stay, and so that is. So now this is going to exacerbate that.
That's
Kevin, let me ask you this, sort of as a broad question for free agency. We know Pietrangelo is going to get paid big bucks. He's going to probably get 7 or 8 years, no matter where he goes. Maybe the same with Krug, probably the same with Taylor Hall. But do you think because the revenues are lower and teams are going to have internal budgets, that a lot of these free agents are going to be willing to take 1 or 2 year contracts? Because I think
they're going to have to. I don't think they're going to have any options because there's so many teams. I thought Frank Saravelli had a good article where he, kind of showed where all the cap situations were. And if you look at where they were, I mean, there's a third of the league that's in cap hell, as he referred to. And then, there's that middle ground teams, but they're not, those middle ground teams are not going to all run out and sign, 10 free agents each.
Right.
Exactly.
And we still got to deal with the teams that are in cap hell who are going to be trying to trade players.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to end up with a lot of players who are going to end up having to take a lot less than they ever thought possible. And a lot of this is pandemic related, but some of it is just the evolution of the maturity of the cap. And we were heading toward this point at some point anyway.
Yeah.
Three of the 4 teams that have the most cap room in the NHL, New Jersey, Ottawa, and Detroit, will get nowhere, and because they Buffalo too, will get nowhere close to 81.5. But their internal budgets are not even. I would bet that none of them are going to get anywhere close to 70 million. They'll get.
New Jersey's not going to spend a lot of extra money either.
Well, and I think Yzerman wants to keep money in reserve so that maybe the following summer, when he's got a decent team in his mind, he can go out and attract a free agent.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think these are great.
Detroit can definitely attract free agents.
No, they can, and they have obviously it's a great tradition there, great building, great fans. They're an attractive team and you have a feeling that they're going to turn things around. I mean, obviously this was an epically awful season for Detroit, but and it would have been nice if they could have gotten Lafreniere in there for sure. That would have helped, but that wasn't necessarily the way things were going to go, right? So. You did a great article on Hockey Buzz about goalies, Kevin. I wanted to get into that article a little bit because you said that half the teams in the NHL are looking for goalies.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, I went around and started talking to people and asking what was going on, and I discovered that half the teams are either looking for a primary goalie or a 1B type goalie.
Yeah.
In other words, a goalie who's going to come in and may challenge 1A. Or may end up being in a backup role as well. And I don't think, there's no statistics, but I don't know that there's ever been this many goalies available at a time when so many teams are actually looking to make changes in their goaltending.
Yeah.
And, as one of the general managers said to me, usually he said you have a plan A and a plan B. He says, we have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and plan E. So, and he said, and you like to use the dominoes, but the dominoes here, it's all going to be like, let's take a team like Edmonton, they can go all out and get a guy, a free agent like Braden Holtby, who I don't think is going to command the price that others do.
Right.
I think you're going to be able to get him on a shorter term deal, and I don't think you're going to have to break the bank to get him. He hasn't played well. There are a lot of goalies available. So maybe they'll look at Braden Holtby. Right. But also in the mix could be Peter Mrazek, who Holland knows from his Detroit days.
Yeah.
Now, is that a lesser option? Yeah, probably. But, they want to just change up their goaltending a little bit.
Right.
And so maybe that's the way they go. Maybe Lundqvist is their guy on a 1-year deal.
Right.
So it's all going to sort of depend. Like once one goalie signs that, then maybe someone else will grab so-and-so because they had, that guy is their number one, and they'll go to their B. And that's
my feeling is Markstrom's the top of this domino thing. Like Markstrom in Vancouver is the top of it, and
Well,
Well, that's going to end soon.
Well, Leonard is but unless Leonard's contract, that rumor of the contract is not.
I think that's I think he's staying there.
If it is true, then he's off the market.
Let me bring this up though, and I didn't have this in the story because this just broke. He's told the Athletic that he now thinks maybe he'll just stay in Vegas, regardless of what's going to happen, and hope for the best. Now, is that really the strategy, or is the strategy to say, "Hey, look, I'm going to stay here. If you're going to sign Leonard, then you're going to have $13 million or whatever in goalies. It must be $12 million. How much is he? $7 million?
He's 7 and Leonard 5.
So $12 million. So $12 million in goalies. I'll just stay here. I'm not going to want to go anywhere, and then you won't be able to go after Peter.
This is Alan Walsh working in reverse.
Right.
Throw into this thing, which is really fascinating, is what I heard today, which plays into this makes more sense, Kevin, than ever before. Having heard you say that, is that Fleury is a possible buyout candidate, which I was really shocked at, because I'm looking at why would they? First of all, you would think they could trade Fleury, right? He seems tradable. But at the same time, is Fleury forcing their hand into a buyout? Like, is he taking him there in that direction by saying?
I don't think they're going to buy him out.
No, but if
they don't have to,
he's just going to stay.
No, but
what do they really gain? Because they're in order to trade him, they'd have to take some of the cap space anyway.
Right.
I mean, the buyout for Fleury, they would save $4.5 million this year, $4 million next year, and then a $2 million cap hit the 2 following years. So, I mean, it would almost open up enough cap space to accommodate the new Leonard contract. So if that was the way, I mean, you could get value for him if you retained, I would say, $2 million off of the contract, and then would cut the
Which
cap.
you might as well get something for Fleury.
Are you sure that you can get value for him, though? Because I've been,
I think so.
I've been surprised at how much his
still look good in this year's playoffs. He's going to have value.
I know. I mean, I thought he should have played more in this year's playoffs, but I've been talking to people.
You got to define value before I'll agree with that.
Okay, I mean value. I think you can get a second-round pick for Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh yeah. I'm not arguing that. I thought you were
right.
talking.
That's not what I'm thinking. Is
but I would rather have a second-round pick. I would rather have a second-round pick than buy him out for $4 million space.
But doesn't he have to agree to be traded?
$5 million a year the next 2 seasons.
Right.
There's a bunch of teams that would.
Okay.
I think have no movement clause. I'm asking that question.
Yes, he does. He
does. So therefore,
he can give them a list. Yeah,
you can give him a list, and therefore, so then that limits again to what you can get for him, and then therefore it might come down to, if no one's on his list.
Well, he has a modified no trade. He has a 10-team no trade list, so he can partially control where he wants to go. But if he forces him into a buyout situation, then he can go to any one of the 30 teams. So and
if he does, and would you not put it past Alan Walsh to have on that list?
I wouldn't put anything past Alan Walsh.
Let's see, on that list, who I'm going to put on that list? I'm going to have the best goalie. The 10 teams with the best goalies in the NHL are on his trade list. Those are the teams you'll go to. Like, to the point where those teams would never trade. That's the way around this list with goalies. Those goalies. One person said to me, "You never give a limited no trade to a goalie, because it's pointless, because they could sit there and tell you teams that would
should be Buffalo, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and 7 teams with the best goalies."
Right, something like that. So find the best.
But the idea is that there are teams that, even though they have a goalie, would upgrade to Fleury if they had the chance.
Right. But okay, Russ.
How many teams?
Carolina would.
Carolina's the team I'm thinking of right now would be the team that would make the biggest.
Yeah, but maybe Carolina wants to get somebody else. Maybe Carolina wants to get.
Toronto wouldn't, because even with the retaining of $2 million, Fleury's the same salary as Frederik Andersen. The Leafs, if they're moving out, like if they're going to trade Andersen, or if that's still in Kyle Dubas's mind, he's looking for a better goaltender at a cheaper price.
Wait, so you're telling me Andersen's better than Marc-Andre Fleury?
No, I'm saying Marc-Andre Fleury's got 2 years left, and they would.
So what? If he's the better goalie, you got a better chance to win the cup.
Russ, they're looking to save money on their goaltending. They're looking to upgrade and save money, and they think that's.
Bless you, everyone who was out there. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Kev? Could this happen?
Could there be a buyout? I don't think so.
No,
I would be shocked. But we've seen strange
I
things.
mean, it feels like there's a path where he could force it to happen to me. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's some cat and mouse going on here. So I agree with you. So, and this is 2020. So,
right.
like goodness, like anything could happen. The one thing that worries me a little bit, and I almost hate to have these words spill out of my mouth because I'm such a Marc-Andre Fleury fan.
Yeah.
But all of us here on this panel know that Fleury didn't play as well as he has in the past.
Right.
And I think that's why we're in this situation.
Exactly.
That's why Vegas decided to go with Robin Leonard. They were closest to him, and they got worried based on what they saw. Now, I'm with Russ. I think he has some value. I think people believe in him. They also love the fact that he's a great teammate. He's a great team player. He's popular. People love him. Everything about him. So, I'd certainly be willing to take a chance, but it's a little bit concerning to you that if you watched a lot of his games and he was still a credible goalie, but he wasn't Fleury that we saw in his first seasons with Vegas. So
he just can't be forced to play 60 games every year. If he goes someplace where he plays 40, 45 games and then he's the guy in the playoffs, then I think he's still a top echelon goalie. Kev, I wanted to ask you because we've been mentioning this name all week, and I want your input on it, especially the piece that Pierre LeBrun wrote about Pietrangelo and about the possibility of what normally does not happen in hockey, which is a sign and trade. With him getting the 8th year clearly there is a divide right now with the Blues and Pietrangelo on philosophical levels because Doug Armstrong will not sign a player with signing bonus. There's nobody else on the roster other than Ryan O'Reilly, who was acquired from Buffalo, that has signing bonus in his contract, and Newport, who is the agent for Pietrangelo, is demanding heavy signing bonus as like buyout protection. So it doesn't sound like they're gonna meet in the middle here. But I don't know whether it's beneficial for the Blues to sort of give Pietrangelo an 8th year to trade him, and I don't know if they get enough back to make it worth their while.
I mean, it really does depend on what they're willing to get back, and that's in the Pietrangelo's court because if he wants to go to a team bad enough, he can say to them, "Hey, look, I want that 8th year. If you want me, make that deal with them." And whatever the Blues get, like Russ just made the case, a 2nd round pick is better. Is certainly better than nothing. Well, a 3rd round pick is better than nothing too. Yeah. So if you make that deal, so I think that could happen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you mentioned also that I really liked in your article, Kevin, was that when you said that you're talking about the Buffalo Sabres and you said that they had a rumor to have interest in Frederik Andersen.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I've heard that around the league. I mean, obviously they know a lot about him. They've they've seen him, and if they were going to make that deal, that would make some sense. But I don't know. Would Toronto trade a guy to Buffalo?
The question is, would Buffalo trade a guy to Toronto? I mean, I don't know whether they may be completely separate situations, but I've heard that there was interest in Rasmus Ristolainen on the part of the Maple Leafs. Yeah. I don't think the Sabres would trade Ristolainen to Toronto because their greatest fear is Ristolainen coming back and haunting their life if he actually plays well in Toronto. Could I see Andersen being traded to the Sabres? Yeah, for one reason. $1 million salary owed, $5 million cap hit. For the Pagulas right now who are cap strapped or at least on a budget for this year, that's a $4 million savings that they don't have to pay. It's already, the bonus has already been paid for Andersen. So I can see it. And if the Leafs see a goaltender out there in the market, like if they could get Holtby at $3.5 million on a 1-year deal and they could save $1.5 million by trading Andersen, they would do it. I would think so.
That's what I think too. I think if they have a goalie deal and they need to get rid of Andersen,
yes,
they'll trade him to whoever they can.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand. I said this last year and it's still true. I wouldn't trade Ristolainen. Like It's so hard.
Yeah.
When you get defensemen who have that ability, now he's irritated them because he hasn't played exactly to the level they want him to. But it's hard to find those guys. And the minute you trade them, now you're trying to fill that spot again. So he'd be one of the guys I'd keep. I'd be looking at Eichel and Reinhart and Ristolainen and obviously Goalie. Yeah. And those are the guys I'd be hanging on to, and the rest of them,
I would think a shutdown pairing. If Toronto was able to get Ristolainen and put him on a second pairing with Jake Muzzin, that's the type of defensive pairing that they've been missing for since Boreas Salming was their best defenseman. So but do I think that the Sabres are going to trade Ristolainen anywhere close to their division? No, I think they'll trade him out west somewhere.
Mike, are the Maple Leafs set on a right versus left?
Yes,
a defenseman. It has to be right.
It has to be a right. They have so many lefties in there. They have so many lefties that some of the lefties who can play the right side, Dermott, Riley can play the right side in a pinch, but he plays much better on the left. Rasmus Sandin, Mikko Lehtinen, who they got from the KHL. All these guys are lefties who can play right, but I think if they're going out and spending significant assets in either a free agency or by trade, it's got to be a right-hand shot. So that's why Dumba or Pietrangelo or, the other righties that are out there make sense. Torrey Krug makes absolutely no sense for Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I just got a text that they heard Marc-Andre Fleury wanted to play for the Sharks. Now that's something. Now if that's the case, then how would that play? Could you see the Knights moving Fleury to the Sharks? I mean, that's like a big.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can, but they're going to have to eat the salary. And I tell you, Doug Wilson would love to have them. They have no faith in Martin Jones.
Right.
They're going to get a goalie here.
Yeah.
That seems clear from talking to people around the league. I haven't talked to the Sharks, but they're hunting around. And, the issue is, how much would Vegas eat of the contract if they want to go to the Sharks? They don't want the Sharks don't want $10.5 million in goaltending.
No, Kev, they would buy out Jones.
So
which is a healthy buyout also.
It's a big buyout. That's a tough
buyout.
buyout.
Expensive buyout for a lot of years.
It's a long buyout, but I'm looking it up right now. The range of the cap hit would be 1.6 to 2.8 over 8 years. And
8 years, right?
Yeah, right. Because he's got 4 years left. But if you get Vegas to retain $2 million in salary on Fleury, then basically it pays for the buyout. It doesn't pay for the money of it, but it pays for the cap hit of the buyout.
Yeah. Right. Although, we always toss these buyouts around as if, and they're not always easy to sell to ownership.
No.
Yeah.
You basically go to him and said, I need you to okay this mistake I made.
Exactly.
So,
in a world where we're not generating a lot of revenue because there are no fans in the building.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. So,
and yet, we talked earlier, Kev, there's some teams that have ownership groups, and that's even more complicated.
Well, the way you sell it, Kevin, is you go to Hugo Platner and you say, well, he's owed $23 million on the last 4 years of the deal, and if we buy him out, we save $6.5 million of that $25 million. But then you have to pay for a new starting goalie, so that it's mitigated by that. So
it's it's hard, but what Eck just said too, or maybe it was Jan, someone of you two just said that we're doing this at a time when everybody knows the revenue is going to be significantly down. Now obviously there are teams that will do that. I mean the Maple Leafs don't worry about buying out people. The New York Rangers don't worry about buying out people. There are a lot of teams that don't, and maybe San Jose. That wouldn't be an issue. I don't know, but
well, they say they're going to play extend to the cap, right? The Sharks are going to go all the way up to the cap, so they must be okay money wise out there.
And right now, going without any buyouts, right now they have $14 million in cap space, so they have room to maneuver, even with three of the highest paid defensemen in the NHL on the roster.
Let's go to the Stanley Cup Final before we get out of here, guys. Because obviously, when I get Kevin's opinions on what's going on there, and the whole Stamkos thing, which he's not playing tonight. He's unable to play tonight. That's been
let me just lay this out to Kevin, just so he can beat me over the head with it. Because Kevin, I said on the show after Game 3 that it was a big mistake for the Lightning to put Stamkos in the lineup. That if he was like if he was one bullet in the chamber, that you wait until later in the series when it could make more of a difference instead of putting him in at 1-1 in the series. And now he's injured, and more than likely, I mean, I'm guessing here, but more than likely he isn't going to play in the rest of the series. I thought it was stupid for them to put him in there now in Game 3, even though he scored a great goal and he was an inspiration to them. I think it was much too early in the series. Go ahead, beat me up.
Well, I'm not going to beat you up because I understand the logic of that. I mean, I will beat you up for other things, but not for that. The thing about it is that, it turns out like, that may be the pivotal win of this series.
Yeah.
Establishing out. Saying that, I was on another podcast yesterday, and the host said to me, "Okay, Kevin, give us your Game 4 is always the most important speech," because I do always give that speech.
Right.
Because it's always the difference between 2-2 and 3-1.
Right.
Not always, but in most cases it is.
Or elimination. That's the only two options.
It can't be that. So, but it's always the most important game. And, like it feels to me like this series now, because of the Stamkos goal, which, could put him down in Stanley Cup lore as the guy that came in, scored a big goal, got his team turned around, didn't play again, and then will carry the Stanley Cup if it works out that way.
Yeah.
So it feels like the kind of game that you win and then you just go on from there and you win. But if Dallas plays the kind of perfect game that they showed against Vegas, where they just play their game and don't worry about what the other team is doing and, keep the chances down and win this game, we got a brand new series. Like, this could go. And I'll tell you, this has been a great playoff in my opinion.
Yeah.
But right now, like I've almost lost interest in the final. Now that Tampa has won.
The final is not.
Yeah, and I don't know why. But so I felt like I watched that game and said, oh, "All right, well, it's over now."
But
there
is
this game. Suddenly, I'm re-engaged.
Yeah, right. That's exactly it. So Tampa has this ability to make every other team look like an AHL team at times, like. That you know what I mean? Like Tampa will play a game, and you're just like, I'll never forget watching with Russ one time in the Flyers press box. They were playing the Flyers, and we talked about this before, and I said they play in the NHL, right? Like we're watching Tampa just take over the Flyers. Like it's not even the same league we play in, right? They're not like in a league above us that we didn't know about. Like they can do that, and when they do that, it's almost not fun to watch them unless you're a fan of theirs because they really just systematically make you look terrible. And that's kind of what they did, right?
There is breaking news. So Faxa won't be in tonight, but they could get Blake Como back, and that could be a nice addition. That's a game time decision. That could be a nice addition to getting back to playing hard forechecking and not taking stupid penalties. I felt like Alexiak went too over the edge in that game. He needs to reel it back too.
Well, Russ, there was also some thought because Ben Bishop played in an optional practice, since there's back-to-back games tonight and tomorrow night, that Bishop would come in for one of those two games. I don't know. I mean, Game 4 and 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, you would think that both teams would play the guys that gone.
I don't think he would come in for tonight. I think if they lose tonight, he could come in for the other game. I do think there's a chance of that, but I don't think he'll be in tonight. But I think if they don't love what they see in Khudobin tonight, it could happen. Because they're not going to use Ottinger. We know that. Yeah,
they said he's unfit to play, so he's not playing tonight. It's going to be Khudobin. But you'd think that we know that Tampa's not going to go with Curtis McElhinney in either game. So
right, and they're not going to Ottinger. They're not. Even though I like Ottinger, they won't do it to him.
Yeah. What's interesting? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, Kev, you finish.
Well, I was just going to say, Russ, what do you want to bring up about the PHWA?
No, off the air, Kev.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so I'll leave you with this. So there's a rumor out that, Messi is like one of the best soccer players in the world, often considered the best soccer player in the world. I was reading on the internet that, he's in a contract and wants to maybe leave the team he's on. And he has the ability to pay something to get out of his contract. I thought that was fascinating. I didn't realize that this is how it worked in the soccer world. They could actually
he could buy his way out.
The pay out his release clause is what they call it.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Imagine that existed in the NHL.
It works in the KHL, doesn't it? Under the table.
Soccer's like the
I
perfect.
think you
sport for
just
it to be
disappear that way.
because in soccer you can go and like play in so many different leagues, I guess. But it pay out his release clause. Interesting. Anyway,
I do have one more fun thing for Kevin. So Kevin, 28 years ago today, Manon Rayon played in an exhibition game. Did you cover it or write about it?
I covered it. Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
you did. So tell us about it.
Well, I mean, it was exciting. It was fun. It was. She looked credible in the net. They at first it seemed like a novelty, and then all of a sudden the guys just kind of sort of forgot and started to play that. But it was really interesting, and what I really remember about it, and you'll appreciate this as a trading card guy, she became an instant a trading card sensation. And
absolutely,
Classic put out a set.
Yeah, Classic had the four card, and had
all those autographs, and she was thing. And back then they were printing a lot more hockey cards than they are today. So, and like she was like the hottest thing going on a pretty big market. Today, hockey card market is pretty small. So
and to fast forward 20 some odd years, Dylan St. Cyr, who is her son, is a goalie at Notre Dame. I think he was a draft pick last year, right, Russ?
I don't know if he got drafted, but he's a goalie that's I'm not sure if he'll make it. He is very short. He's good. He's got good reflexes. He played for Team Canada a bit, but I don't know. Yeah,
he's in his junior year at Notre Dame.
She was actually the perfect person to do that too, because of her personality.
Mm-hmm.
She was a good interview. She could sort of represent women's hockey very, very well.
Yeah.
And, it was just all circumstances that kind of brought it all together.
It's still an amazing thing that happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was for sure. And, you had to be the first because, obviously no one else played NHL, but there were others played in pro hockey. I remember Aaron Witten came along and played in pro hockey, and there were a few others and everything, but we don't even remember those.
Right. It's true.
Romano, the first.
And one quick note, the Leafs have hired former, I think he was a Jack Adams Award winner, Paul McLean.
I think he might have been.
Yeah, in Ottawa he was. He was a former assistant for Mike Babcock, which is strange, in Detroit, I believe. But they hired him as an assistant coach to add to Sheldon Keefe's staff. So Dave Hackstall and Paul McLean, two ex-head coaches on the staff.
Yeah, good. And the other female I think that could have done so recently. A lot of people were talking about Shannon Sadas, who.
She played in the ECHL.
She played in the ECHL. Right. She got pretty far with that, and she played in a lot of men's leagues and was very successful for sure. So,
I think Kelly Dyer, that name rings a bell.
Kelly Dyer does ring a bell.
Yeah, she played in, down with the teams that were in Florida. I can't remember where. I think she played down there too. There have been like a handful. In Ruggiero actually played a game on the defense in Texas in the minor leagues as well. In Ruggiero.
It's awesome. I'd like to see it sometime. So the last bit of real, David Jones has asked this in the chat room for about. I don't think there's anything to this, but they wanted to know our thoughts on Montreal possibly offer sheeting Pierre-Luc Dubois.
It'll get matched in 3 seconds.
Yeah, they're not
I don't even think they'll wait that long.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think they definitely have enough there. For sure.
I've always been understated, Kev.
Yeah, but thanks so much for the questions. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. By the time we see you next, man, we could have a Stanley Cup already being crowned. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think
virtual parade being planned.
A virtual parade being planned. Yes. Get out your VR headset.
Hey, the Devils had one back in the day. So.
Oh, remember
don't make fun of the Jersey Turnpike, baby.
Remember
wasn't that parade like just in the parking lot?
Right? It was in the parking lot.
We can line the street with video, TVs, and then just have the fans virtual on Zoom.
I love that. I gotta say though, I loved that arena. I really did. Brendan Byrne Arena.
I was in it for concerts, for games. I've been there a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it had charm.
It did.
Really?
Well, it was a lot like Joe Louis, right? I mean, it actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was just an old arena, but from the reporting standpoint, the
elevator was terrible though, Kevin, especially in the
it was, but the press box was at center ice in the lower level. It was ridiculous how good it was. So, That was terrific.
All right, guys. Remember that the buzz is just hockey. Enjoy the weekend.